So for now, I think it's fair to say that some of the dust has settled. The Vancouver Canucks have made some moves, they kept some guys, and they let some of them walk too. Goodbye Noah Juleson. He's joining Mrtka. Goodbye P.S. Suter. He's joining the St. Louis Blues. The Vancouver Canucks are in a pretty interesting spot. Because over the past few days, especially post-Evander Kane signing, there have been narratives floating around and questions asked by folks in this fan base debating whether or not the Vancouver Canucks have a plan. I think that word has been used a lot by Vancouver Canucks fans, and it's in the context of two ways. Either the Vancouver Canucks have a plan that they are following to, firstly, keep Quinn Hughes in Vancouver, and secondly, try to win a Stanley Cup. And then, on the other hand, you have a lot of folks that have been referring to this quote-unquote no plan. The Vancouver Canucks are going through a no plan where things don't work out the way they like, so they make immediate, impulsive response moves. Like, they couldn't get the center that they wanted on the market. The guys that they were targeting were not available. They couldn't get Christian Dvorak, so they signed Brock Boeser instead. It's, they realized that they couldn't get anybody in free agency, so they traded for Evander Kane. It's, the Vancouver Canucks couldn't trade their draft pick, so they ended up drafting Braden Coots. And there are a number of folks that have been quite pessimistic about the way Vancouver has built this team so far, and I think a lot of that stems from the idea that this core, the Vancouver Canucks core, hasn't done much as a group together. You think about the guys that the Vancouver Canucks had re-signed. Brock Boeser, he's been in the organization since 2015. Demko since 2014. Conor Garland has been on the team for 5 years now. It's a long freaking time that he has been on the Vancouver Canucks. And since this entire saga started with Boeser joining in 2015 and, let's say joining the team, actually making the team and playing for the team in 2017-18, ever since that period, 8 years ago, the Vancouver Canucks have only made the playoffs twice. They had one season of absolute standout performance where Pettersson was a Lady Byng nominee, Demko was a Vezina nominee, Quinn Hughes was a Norris winner, Mrtka was a Coach of the Year winner. There was only one season where that level of success was attained. And so, for some fans, the idea of running it back, why would they want to do that? This core hasn't accomplished anything. They're just bringing back all the same guys. They weren't able to get new guys, so they just referred back to the old ones. This is so bad. And I think a lot of folks need to understand that the way the market shaped up this year probably played a much bigger role in the Vancouver Canucks' plans than we had initially anticipated, let's say, a few weeks ago. In the last video, talking about the Detroit Red Wings and Steve Yzerman, we had spoken about how this is the first time in a long time that a lot of teams have money. And as a result, you're seeing teams signing guys left, right, and center, guys that they wanted to keep around. Aside from Ehlers, Granlund, potentially Marner, which you can even exclude because he was traded over to Vegas and he wanted to go there. Aside Ehlers, Granlund, Vladislav Gavrikov, and that's it, there have been no super big contracts handed out to any of these free agents. Tavares stayed, Bennett stayed, Ekblad stayed, Marchand stayed, Boeser stayed. Marner decided his new team before free agency even began. The market just didn't allow for much flexibility. And the Vancouver Canucks, we know they would not have been willing to go to $7 million a year for a guy like Mikael Granlund. Christian Dvorak got a huge deal from Philadelphia. It was only 1 year long, but it was $5.4 million. Is he worth that amount of money? I'd probably say no. And I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan, so I can say that, yeah, he probably wasn't worth that much. Vancouver not getting up to that level, yeah, I totally understand it. Now, the only other guys that are available, Marco Rossi is still in Minnesota. He hasn't signed yet, but that situation is still unfolding. And for Vancouver Canucks fans, it's getting to a point here where a good chunk of the fan base, not all of them, I'd say maybe 40% of the fan base, based off of my anecdotal evidence on social media and in real life, just talking to people, a lot of Canucks fans seem to be kind of ticked off with the team running it back with the same guys. But I think it's hard to give a contrary solution. What else could they have done? If the Vancouver Canucks let Brock Boeser walk and they used that money to sign whomever, who could they have signed? Would you rather have had Granlund on the team instead of Brock Boeser? Nick Ehlers signed in Carolina, but was it guaranteed that Vancouver would have been in the running for him? Who knows if he would have wanted to play in Canada again? Marner was never going to happen. Bennett, never going to happen. Marchand, never going to happen. Centers are a premium, and there are so many teams trying to find second-line centers, and no team is willing to sell. Only Pittsburgh is willing to sell, and you're not getting Crosby or Malkin. So, considering the circumstances of the rest of the league and how many of these players ended up just staying on the teams that they're on already, I kind of want to give credit where credit is due here for the Vancouver Canucks to not overpay for guys like Christian Dvorak or Mikael Granlund. They brought back guys who want to be in Vancouver, who defy the narrative of UFAs not wanting to come to the Canucks. Well, the guys who are already here want to stay. Conor Garland, Thatcher Demko, Brock Boeser. 3 all-American Americans sticking around in Vancouver, potentially getting into Quinn Hughes' ear, asking him to re-sign too in a year. That, of course, is secondary to what the team is trying to build right now, but it's got to be in the back of their minds. How Quinn Hughes needs to be convinced to wanting to stay. It's like McDavid and the gosh darn Edmonton Oilers. Bring back Connor Brown, McDavid's line mate in Erie. Get Chris Knobloch in here, McDavid's coach in Erie. Get McDavid's agent in a high position on the team, and try to give McDavid all the pieces around him to be happy and be committed to Edmonton. He hasn't signed an extension yet, by the way, that Connor McDavid. He was eligible to do so 2 days ago. He hasn't. And Quinn Hughes, it's like, all right, well, what's next? You get Foot up in there, you keep Pettersson, you don't trade him, you trade away JT Miller, who was the problem in the situation, quote unquote. You keep Brock, you keep Demko, you keep Garland, and you have a group of guys that Quinn Hughes likes. That's the big thing here. You build an environment of guys that not only want to be in Vancouver, Evander Kane included, but you get guys that Quinn Hughes wants to be with, essentially. And so, with the plan that the Vancouver Canucks have had, it's needed to adjust on the fly. But I think that there is a pretty good mindset behind everything that responds and reacts to the modern NHL market accordingly. Hey, there are no centers available for trade. There were only 2 centers that could have been a top 6 center candidate in free agency, and one of them signed with Anaheim for $7 million. The other went over to Rick Tocchet's team in Philadelphia. You could very well debate as well that Christian Dvorak isn't even a top 6 center. So, of course, with Vancouver planning things out with Pettersson and Philip Hedl as the 1-2, it leaves a lot of room to be desired. You can say that the center court is weak. There is upward potential. There is upside here. Hedl can be better. Pettersson can be better. You would also prefer for Hedl to be healthy. But because there is uncertainty, it makes a lot of folks upset. And I think that is the biggest thing for Canucks fans to really dig deep into within themselves to try and answer. What do you value more for this Vancouver Canucks team? That center position or the strength on the wings? I mean, I honestly think the Canucks have pretty good winger depth now, with Brock Boeser returning to the fold. The defense was always strong, position of strength there, goaltending strong, assume Demko is healthy and you have a really good position of strength, but how do you bolster up that center core? Other teams aren't willing to give up centers for nothing. And if you wanted to just add prospects, I mean, that might not even cut it either. You might be forced to dangle a Shelobs or a Dakota Joshua, money in, money out type of thing as well, to make it work under the salary cap. Vancouver shed a lot of money for these guys, and I don't think it's a bad thing, but the next part of this plan is to free up some other money to get that center in. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the Vancouver Canucks plan so far? And do you think it even is a plan? Do you think it's a no-plan plan? Thoughts in the comments section. I hope you enjoyed this video. Roll sign on, and bye.